Call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m., Thursday, October 12th. At this time, I ask everyone to stand, face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, welcome to the Independence Township Planning Commission meeting. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to this room. Agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the township website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended this evening by the Planning Commission. State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 7 residents appointed to serve their community. Members are appointed by the supervisor and confirmed by the township board. Other individuals participating in the meeting this evening include representatives of the township's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates, the city's engineering consultant, Noah Confraus, and also the township planner. If you wish to address the planning commission, please come forward to the podium. When recognized, provide your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the planning commission, not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or other device that could make a noise or disrupt the meeting, please turn it off and put it on silent. And at this time, I ask the planning commission secretary to conduct a roll call. The secretary is not here this evening. Does anyone want to volunteer, or do you want?
Yeah, I can just do it.
Good man.
I do it for easy.
Mr. Borsheim?
Here.
Mr. Galley?
Here.
Mr. Lawford?
Here.
Mr. Pytel here? Mr. Ritchie?
Here.
Mr. Savedant?
Here.
Mrs. Tully? Absent.
Thank you. We now move on to the review of the agenda. The agenda is before us this evening. Does anyone want to move a motion of approving the agenda as presented, or does anyone have a suggested amendment?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented. Support?
We have a motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing nobody. Abstentions? Nobody. Agenda is approved 7-0.
6.
6-0. Math is hard. Math is hard. Math is hard. Next item is item E, public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone, we'll start with people attending in person. Is there anyone in the audience who has a comment for an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one, is there anyone attending remotely that has a comment for an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing no one, I close item E and I move on to item F, which is a public hearing. Before I open the public hearing, what we'll do is we'll introduce it with a presentation by the planning consultant and the consulting engineer. Then we will provide an opportunity for back and forth with the planning commission, provide the applicant with an opportunity to present, and then we'll open the public hearing. So if anyone wishes to comment on the public hearing, we'll get there if you're here to talk about it after you've got all the information, and we've got all the information, so hang tight. So item F1 is PC file number 2023-010, Petitioner's Dort Financial Credit Union. The parcel is located at 6798 Dixie Highway, parcel number 0829327013. Present zoning is C2 Planned Shopping Center, and the petitioner who is present this evening requests special land use and conceptual site plan approval for a new credit union on the old Clarkson Theater property as a planned development option in the Dixie Highway Overlay District. Mr. Carlisle.
It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
The plan before you tonight, the applicant is requesting special land use and conceptual site plan approval under the PD planned development option under the Dixie Overlay District. Planning Commission specifically adopted those regulations a number of years ago to facilitate development of difficult sites on Dixie Highway, which we have a number of, that because of size, because of depth, for a variety of reasons, configuration of property, physical issues because of the fact that the highway has grown out and essentially taken up more properties. We wanted to at least create a process where applicants could come forward with a planned development plan and avoid having to seek multiple variances from the Board of Appeals. In other words, make it more of a planning-driven process. Some commissioners are aware of the fact that the site where the Cospelli's currently is, which was a former gas station, was a project that took advantage of the planned development option, and I think it's good evidence of why that was needed. I think that piece of property would have been otherwise very difficult to develop without some flexibility being granted. This is a similar situation. You have an old use, abandoned building that's been something that the township has, had, it's been a difficult thing for the township and for the residents to see this building, the cinema, sitting there for as many years as it has. The site itself has some challenges from that standpoint. The other thing about this site is it's Zone C2, which is Planned Commercial Shopping Center, which frankly, for a site of this size, doesn't make any sense because the minimum lot area for planned commercial shopping is 5 acres, and this site is considerably less than that. It's also encumbered with a drainage easement from the M15 drain that crosses the property. The M15 drain was a county drain that was built back in the early 80s to essentially drain that whole area that includes the office park up in Citation Drive. This drain crosses the property next door, which is the Oakland Medical property, and a number of properties in that whole area are served by this drain, but it does come right as an easement through this. As Jason will probably inform you, there is a floodplain on this property that will need to be dealt with. The plan that you see before you is different than the one you initially sought, and I think the applicant rethought some of the site layout issues and essentially, reversed the plan, or didn't reverse it, turned the building 180 degrees. Before, you had parking that was separated on both sides of the building, which is by its nature inefficient. In this particular case, they've consolidated all the parking in a single lot fronting on Dixie Highway, and then the bank drive-through is towards the rear. It leaves plenty of perimeter room for buffering from the neighboring residents. It does leave some room in the front for some, for a fairly aggressive landscape plan that would need to take place to screen the parking lot from Dixie Highway. The entryway is coming off of Dixie Highway, and it's improving that part of Hidden Lane that this property, that is on part of this property, and actually goes and serves several residents behind this piece of property, excuse me. The other aspect about this is that the applicant is eliminating the existing curb cut that services this site, which is in keeping with the township's access management standards in the zoning ordinance to try to minimize the number of curb cuts. So, that's definitely a very positive thing. We've gone through and reviewed the project from the standpoint of meeting the special use criteria for the planned development option, and we believe that for a variety of different factors, this certainly fits and meets that option, not the least of which is the removal of a long-standing, non-conforming, obsolete building that probably in itself could not be repurposed as it currently exists. So I think that's a positive thing. This is actually a reduction in the potential intensity of the zoning on the site, because this is what we would consider more of an office or service use, whereas the site is zoned commercial. So you could have a much higher intensity commercial use on this site if they could fit everything on it. So I think that's probably will be a benefit to this project. There are some deviations that the planning commission will have to approve. These are not variances, because under the plan development option, it's the planning commission that can grant deviations. It's the front yard setbacks, it's the minimum lot size and lot width, all several things that are outlined in our review that will be cured by granting of the deviations. But just keep in mind that nothing could develop on this site under the current zoning without multiple variances, because the site has a minimum lot size of 5 acres and a minimum lot width, I think, of 400 feet. And this lot obviously can't do that. So I think we already talked at the last meeting about some of the physical aspects. Topography is a little challenging. The floodplain is obviously something that is of concern. We've raised the issue here of woodland removal because of the drainage basin back there. It's pretty important in this particular site that we try to maintain as much buffer between this site and the neighboring properties, which would essentially be to the northwest, and I don't know the way this is positioned, to the north and to the west, actually probably a better way to put it for you. And so at this point, we don't have a landscape plan that demonstrates that those buffering requirements are met, but that will need to be demonstrated before a final site plan is approved. One of the things I've asked them to consider is to reduce the driveway entrance into the drive-through that kind of looks like a lot of pavement there. And what that will require in the part of the planning commission is to grant a deviation from the stacking for those drive-throughs. I will have to tell you from my opinion, I don't think 4 stacking spaces will be needed, especially for a credit union, which is a member-based, a type of financial institution. And I think someone observed to me that, the credit unions that we have in town, you don't see 4 cars stacked up trying to get through the drive-through. So they have taken a look at that and actually have shown me a sketch plan that shows the ability to actually narrow that down so it looks less obtrusive. And, I'm primarily concerned about the residents on Hidden Lane from that standpoint. They are connecting a sidewalk to the safety path. They are going to complete the safety path, which is a small length of that. They do need to revise to provide a landscape plan. They did provide a lighting plan, but there's a number of issues associated with that, which we outlined in our review, which needs to be provided. They need to provide details and dimensions of their wall signs. We previously commented regarding the use of ephes on the building. I believe, even though I haven't, the elevations in the manner they're presented appear that they've reduced that, but I'm going to let the applicant speak to that. Generally, the commission has taken a dim view of the use of ephes on any commercial buildings because of its lack of long-term durability, but we'll let the commission talk about that. So all in all, I'm very, although I have a lot of comments, we're very positive about this project because it's a lower, look, there's going to be traffic no matter what with any kind of use of this property. But this is a lower impact use of a commercially zoned property than we normally would see. There's sufficient room to buffer this site. There are some details they need to fill in before final, but generally, we believe that this is worthy of a planned development option approval. So, be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
I'll start. I agree. I've never seen 12 cars stacked at a credit union.
Yeah.
And even if, worst case scenario, if they're all the stacking is jammed, you can swing around, park, and walk in. I have the issue. I really only have 2 things that jumped out at me. One is this that you say that they're willing to address.
Yeah.
I think it's a safety issue as well because that design allows cars to come in and just scream in like really fast. And if you're walking there or biking, I think it's it's a negative situation. So if they're willing to do that, I'm willing to grant a reduction in the stacking. I think that's more than reasonable. They've
Yeah.
got more than enough stacking spaces. And my other concern is the ephes. I think it's a beautiful building, and I think the ephes kind of cheapens the look of it. That's my opinion. I'd like to see a more durable, just a better building material. I'm okay with it in a really minimal complementary type use, but that's a lot of ephes on those elevations, and I'd like to see something better. But in terms of this evening, I think it's possible then this evening to grant special use approval with some suggestions that we see for
Yeah.
final.
And,
So-
you know, like, as you frequently do, cite our report if you agree with
Yeah.
it, and anything else that you wish to add as a condition to the conceptual site plan approval. Understanding, and for the members of the public that are here, that this does come back to you for a final approval.
Yeah, okay. Any questions?
So just for clarification, because I see final site plan and special approval for plan development option, so this is not a final site plan, it's a concept?
Because of the number of items that had to be addressed, we intended for it to be a final site plan, but I cannot recommend that you give it final site plan
So
approval.
it'll come
at this
back to
point.
us. And so it's a plan development option, which means no variances, but we need to provide a special approval with
Correct.
certain, as long as it meets, and I don't know what the Dixie corridor allows for, but I'm assuming what they're asking for is under our purview.
Correct.
Okay. Just one other question, I'll have some questions for the applicant too, but I'm also concerned about the screening. I'm glad you pointed that out. Do we know the hours of operation? Because that's gonna, I'm just thinking of headlights as they're coming through
Yeah.
the drive-through. That's.
Yeah, I don't know that. The applicant will have to answer that.
Great. Anyone else? Anything to add, Mr. Longhurst?
Good evening. Generally, we are supportive of the proposed layout, and I think with the revisions that Mr. Carlisle talked about, that will help alleviate some of the concerns that we had addressed in our letter from a stormwater management standpoint and access. It will just minimize some of those. In general, the largest issue impacting the site is the floodplain and the floodway. You can see on the plan that's being shared there's kind of a bold dashed line that goes around to the north of the drive-through. So that is the flood plain line, and there are also some potential impacts to the floodway. So whatever they do on this site, they're going to have to submit to Eagle for approval there. Their stormwater management system is also located within the floodplain. I believe Oakland County will permit that. Some of the other counties don't. So they'll have to work with the county to work through those issues because their system is proposed to outlet to the M15 drain. So in addition to township review, they'll have to have county review of their stormwater management system as well. As Mr. Carlisle indicated, the safety path across the frontage of the site is being addressed. I think we asked them to extend that from one side to the other, make it 8 feet wide in accordance with township standards. Hidden lane, again, we're in favor of combining the two drive approaches that used to be on Dixie into a single. There are some easements that are going to be required to allow for that because it's on the medical property there to the south or east. So they'll have to secure that easement to allow for the reconfiguration that's being proposed. We also noted that the paving of Hidden Lane up to a certain point throttles down to a very narrow gravel. We were recommending that they leave the asphalt at least 20 feet wide to meet fire department standards, and then it can transition down to a narrower gravel as it moves on to the remainder of Hidden Lane. The dumpster is oriented in a way that we didn't see truck access being feasible there, so we were just asking for clarification if that is going to be serviced by a truck or if it will be like a dumpster that'll be pulled out and picked up in the drive aisle. Some minor grading comments, and then demonstrating the overland overflow route for the storm sewer. For a utility standpoint, water main currently exists on the property. There's a fire hydrant kind of at the southeast corner. They're going to be connecting to that water main, extending a lead onto their site and servicing the building. Sanitary sewer is on the opposite side of Dixie Highway, so they're going to be extending a public sewer across Dixie Highway, and then from there they're going to be connecting a grinder pump and a force main system from their building to access that gravity system because we don't have room to get gravity all the way there. So they are extending public sewer across the road, and then the entire pressure system will be privately owned. And that is it.
Great, thanks. Question?
I have a couple questions. You answered a couple of them, Jason, but, so the easement, sounds like they have to work with medical center, and I noticed that there. But the easement for Hidden Lane, so is that, there's an easement on their property for access for the neighboring properties?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so do those neighbors have to give any permission for them to do any kind of improvement in that easement?
I believe it's a platted subdivision, so there may be a replat needed to address
Okay.
the reconfiguration there.
Yeah, I just didn't know if they had to amend the easement. I know I've done that in the past, and both parties have to work together, so, sounds like we don't know that. As far as the floodplain, I think I asked this before, but, so I have to do a letter of map revision, I'm assuming?
So you can, fill within the floodplain. That's generally the easier of the two. The floodway is where it gets very complicated.
And they're
so-
staying out of the floodway, right?
Yeah. Some of their improvements and grading is in the floodway. So as the plan develops, we'll have a little bit more information. Right now, it appears that improvements are being proposed within the floodway. So we want some clarification, and if it is, then the letter of map provision may be required for
Okay.
any impact.
And that would require compensating cuts, right?
Both. So generally, the floodplain cut and fill, you have to balance that out. The floodway is generally much harder to do improvements within. But yeah, they would have to demonstrate that the improvements that they're doing are not impacting the floodway. And
So do you think there's room on here to do any of the compensating cuts that they'll,
from a grading standpoint, I think there is. And the
Okay.
parking lot and everything doesn't have to be elevated out of the floodplain.
Okay.
It can be within the floodplain.
All right.
That's okay. So as long as they get that cut fill analysis to work out,
Okay,
they
good.
should be okay there. It's just the impacts to the floodway may be much more burdensome from a permitting standpoint.
gotcha. All right, thanks.
Just to talk about the sanitary sewer, then they're gonna extend it over, so it'll be available for other people in that area?
Correct.
hook up
The,
to as
the
well?
public sewer will be extended to their side of Dixie Highway, 10-inch with a manhole. That could be extended in the future. Again, just given the topography and grading here, it would probably be a pressure system to connect to that, which the township would not take jurisdiction over. They don't adopt the pressure systems, only the gravity systems.
Would benefit the structures around them then,
It
too,
could.
if they needed to hook up for
Correct.
some reason, so.
Hmm. Other questions?
Thank you.
Very good analysis, thank you. Does the petitioner have anything to add to the presentation this evening before I open up the public hearing? Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Jeremy Zager, Dork Financial Credit Union.
And I'm Rich Van Dever from Meridian Land Surveying, engineer and surveyor. So we can probably answer a few of the questions that I jotted down here. Main thing being the layout. I got the red line here. You want to just pass them out if you want to see them real fast? Just pass these on. You guys are- Yeah, in essence, on the plan you see before you, behind you, the zoning ordinance, we were trying to meet the zoning ordinance requirements of a 12-foot wide lane, 4 stacking, and all that stuff. And then after I talked to Mr. Carlisle, we figured under the PDO, we could be granted, a lesser width on the lane. We would go from 12 to 10 foot, and went from 3 stacking on 2 of the lanes and a 2 stack on 1, based on what Jeremy has seen at his previous drive-throughs. So that should be beneficial there. The only question I just have is we have an escape lane on the outside of 12 feet plus the lane there, and we have 13.5 feet or more clearance with the canopy. As long as that's okay with the fire chief, then we should be okay to reduce that however you guys see fit.
8 stacking spaces is enough?
Yeah. At the highest point, we typically see maybe a 2-car stack up over the course of a day. Having 3 lanes really eliminates the wait times and allows people to go through the drive-through a lot faster.
I think it's a good compromise that works for everybody.
Mhm.
Is your third lane gonna be like an ATM lane, or?
We utilize an ITM technology that is a remote teller system. Our tellers are actually located in Grand Blanc and serve the drive-throughs remotely. All of the drive-through lanes can function as either a teller for credit union members or an ATM for any non-members going through.
Okay, so they do either one.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
That's crazy cool.
Yeah, if you look out in the elevations, there's like no window there. That blew me away too. I'm like, where's the window for the teller? So there isn't one. So. I can touch on a couple of other issues that I brought up too. The Eagle, I've talked to the Eagle engineer to confirm that I can fill 300 cubic yards of fill in there. And that's about what that corner is right in there. I've tried to get it down to grade as much as possible. It's pretty close to 300 cubic yards. The floodway, you're looking at a scale of, like 2,000, whatever, the floodway maps, and you try to jam in the floodway. So we have an elevation of the floodplain. The floodway, what angle it takes, I don't know. The only impact of the floodway we have, it looks like it's on the existing edge of the existing pavement that's there now, and we're sort of shrinking that pavement. So we'll be doing some grading of a swale to get the water around to the detention basin, but there's no improvements other than the grading and the landscaping that would be put into the floodway. There's no building, there's no paving that I think that's gonna be in the floodway, but we'll let them determine that when I provide them the permit. And I've talked to WRC as well. They're okay with this plan. If we were under an acre, we wouldn't need to have any detention, but since we're improving Hidden Lane, it kicks us over the acre by like a 1/10 of an acre. So I was trying to tell them that Hidden Lane was a private road and it was, being used for multiple people and it's just an easement. But they said it's on your property, it's an improvement, so I'm over an acre. So that's the reason for the detention basin. Although it's really shallow, it's only like 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep. So
Well, if you didn't do that, what would you have to do?
nothing. You're not according to the letter of their law. When I talked to their engineer, if you're under an acre, you're basically let it drain the way it drains. That's what they told me. Trust me. I was confused as well. That's why I had a Zoom call with them. So
Makes no sense.
There are some new thresholds in the ordinance.
yeah,
but
everything changed in like the last year.
caveats to them as well.
Okay.
So anyway, it fits fine there. It's not like it's out of the way or obtrusive. It eats up some of our area for landscaping from that standpoint. But it fits well in topography. You won't even know it's there. I don't think. Be cleaning up the brush and the trees that are there anyway. So it's right next to that. As far as the plat goes with the easement, there is an amended plat in process right now. I believe you had sort of a lawsuit technically to get everyone to agree to amended plat. I think that's underway right now. So that's more of a legal question. And then if you want to talk about EFS, you can.
Yeah. I mean, the way that the EFS looks is it's aesthetic. It is not a large portion of the building. It's a small strip, if I remember right, and it's just part of if you were to look at other buildings that we have in Genesee County, this is being used to match the look and appearance of our other buildings.
Yeah, there's some photos we included. If you go to actual photographs of the actual buildings from Swartz Creek, you can see that right there. I think that EFS strip is above the windows.
Well, that's EFS.
No, it's
This is
no,
brick.
above the window. The
Right.
strip,
Just
that's
this?
just that, the strip there.
That looks like EFS in that picture, but
Look, yeah,
according to the drawing, it's supposed to be brick.
it's hard to read this screen.
Yep.
Well,
So-
the drawing says EFS.
So my
The architect's not there, so I don't know.
it was really helpful adding the photos, but we're not approving the photos, we're approving the elevations.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
and like I said, I think the building looks really nice, but can you go to the
Right.
drawings?
And we can address all those issues, I guess, with the final site plan. Is that what that's for? The building and elevations and stuff, correct?
What finish is, I guess, next to the brick on the left-hand side there, below the window, below the ephes? What finish is that?
Here,
Yeah, that
it
makes
says brick veneer right here. The stone sill.
The elevation shows that as equal, I'm sorry to tell you.
This,
Which
Yeah.
one's
this
south
says
of?
EFS up here.
The chairman
South
pointed
elevation.
out,
Yeah,
well, it was also shown here.
Yeah, there's a lot of EFS on, I was looking at the plans before the meeting
Yeah.
tonight, there's a lot of EFS on this elevation, these
Yeah.
elevations.
Well, it seems like there's more on the south than there should.
The architect,
the one that should have more
we'll
brick.
get with the architect on
Yeah.
that, I guess.
So we're not gonna design it for you, but that's my concern, and I'm one vote.
Yeah, basically, I think all four sides should be
Yeah.
stone or brick veneer of some type.
Yeah, the depth of the band on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the details for the final site plan, the signage, the landscaping, and the lighting, weren't able to turn around for this meeting.
Yeah.
That's why we'll probably be back next month for the final site plan, so we can address any architectural features, I guess,
Yeah,
before then too.
I think we generally, I mean, I think it was well received when we talked about it last. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but, so the parking requirements are 14 spaces, you're providing 15, one more, okay, no big deal. Do you ever foresee a time when you're gonna have 15 cars parked in front of this building?
Very rare, not at all.
Not at all.
No. The traffic is periodic during the course of the day. The nature of the business now is a lot of our activity is done over the internet, routine account activity. Branch activity is resolving problems. Even our lending activity is transitioning to the internet.
So do we ever land bank parking where they don't build 15, maybe
Sure.
they build less? Because why make them build, like, maybe land bank the ones closer to the road, closer to Dixie, or, you know, figure out a number that's gonna work better, save them some money in the event that we need it, or maybe you sell to another user and they need it, it's land banked, but I'd rather save some money and save some impervious surface and
It's more greenery.
more green, more landscaping, and
If you
better
have
for
that
the
flexibility
environment.
in the PDO, we're all for it, so.
So,
We do. They have the flexibility without the PDO.
so put in a number of spaces you're comfortable with, and eliminate as many as you can. And we'll land bank the rest, and if there's ever a need, which there probably won't be as when you're the owner, but if there is in the future, it's administrative approval, land bank, away we go. It's another win-win for everybody.
Okay, would we then landscape that area with more, because we have a 10-foot strip there now,
Mhm.
so if we lose 20 feet in portions of it or all of it, then we could put more screening there? And then
Yeah.
if they ever need it, that takes screening out.
Take the screening out, that's fine.
That'll help the
Make,
landscape.
make the site look better and save you some money, and everyone's a winner.
All right, the question was raised earlier as it relates to the hours. Drive-through hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the building is open for business from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So drive-through meaning the ATM?
Yes,
So
well,
that-
ATM is 24 hours.
It is 24 hours, okay.
But
That was
the
my question.
drive-through, in terms of accessing a teller through the drive-through, would be 7 to 7.
Even though the tellers won't be there.
Correct.
Did you hear that part, Tim? There's actually no tellers there.
Yeah, no, I heard that part. I'm just, my concern on this is 24-hour ATM, which I don't have an issue with, but that just means you're gonna have lights, you know, all times of night, and, you know, I'm concerned about certainly that neighbor that's on Dixie. I'm also concerned about the ones across the lake a little bit too, so I know we don't have a landscape plan. I know that was a comment that Dick had made. I think that that's probably what I'm looking at most, is how to buffer, you know, particularly because of the headlights, but I think you have to screen that along the western perimeter, in my mind.
Of the structures, from the other houses.
From the other houses.
Canopy lights also.
Canopy lights need to be recessed and.
But these are elements that could be addressed for final approval.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that you do raise these so that the applicant understands the significance of these issues, which we believe are.
Yeah, agreed.
Because of the proximity to the residents.
Mhm.
But I do think they're resolvable, you know.
Any other questions before I open up the public hearing? That was very helpful, thank you.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, this is a public hearing. The public hearing is an opportunity for residents to share their comments on a specific project with the planning commission. Everyone in attendance who wishes to speak will be provided with an opportunity to speak. We appreciate everyone who came out tonight to share their thoughts with the planning commission. Your comments are important. You may have some ideas that we haven't talked about yet that we'd love to hear. Before I open the public hearing, it's important to set some ground rules so that it can be an effective and efficient public hearing. Please begin your comments by stating your name and address for the public record. Please address all comments to the chair, that's me. Please be respectful of the planning commission, the consultants, the applicants, and those in the audience. This is an opportunity for residents to provide comment. It's not a discussion or a debate. Please no talking, clapping, cheering, none of that during the meeting. we're not gonna put a timer on anybody who speaks. You've got as much time as you need. Just stay on topic, stay on task this evening, which is this item, the credit union item. And with that said, I'm gonna use my gavel again, because I love using my gavel. I'm gonna open the public hearing, start with those in attendance. So, one at a time, just approach the podium, sign in, state your name and address for the record, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't all rush the podium. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Carol Savage, and I live at 6924 Hidden Lane. I am directly behind the Clarkston Cinema building. First of all, I'd like to mention that the postcard we got said the time for this meeting was 6:30. It said that in the paper. Now I get here, and it started at 6, according to the paper. So we missed a few minutes. Obviously, my biggest concern is Hidden Lane and what's going to happen there. We always heard it was a private road. We treated it as a private road. We maintained it. We plowed it in the winter. We graded it in the summer. And now comes a business that wants to take over Hidden Lane, basically. That's our only ingress and egress to our homes. We have no other way of getting in there. And I'm concerned about what's going to happen there. Well, there might not be very much traffic, but all you need is a couple of cars coming in, going out, and you're waiting to get in or get out. And Dixie Highway is pretty busy these days, most of the day. So we already have problems getting in and out onto the highway. I can't speak to all the other floodplains and all that kind of thing. There is question about where Hidden Lane lays. There was a problem all the way back to when the cinema was built. I lived there, but I did not own the property at the time, so I didn't have a whole lot to do with it. But the other two neighbors down there did, and they actually brought suit against the builder of the cinema. And there was discussion, and things were supposedly straightened out, but now I guess they aren't. And there is a lawsuit against all of the people that are on all of the residents in the buildings that are on the Plat 9, I think it is. I don't know where that's at. That started last December. I'm not sure where that is at this point. But my main concern is the road. We want to preserve the road. I don't understand how they can come in and take over the road when we have seen it as a private road, maintained it as a private road. I've lived there 57 years. The neighbors next to me have lived there longer. And the other house has changed hands several times, but it was, I believe, the first house there. So maybe over 60 years, that road has been maintained by the residents. So how can a business just come in and say, okay, we're going to take over the road and we're going to use it, but we'll let you use it too?
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because I want to make sure we capture your concerns. I'm hearing loud and clear your concern is the road. When you say take over the road, what do you mean specifically
Well, they're
by
going
that?
to use it as their way to get in and out of their business. And therefore, all of their customers are going to be using that road. Okay, so they're going to pave it and make it look nice, but it still is going to hinder us from getting in and out at times.
As opposed to when it was a movie theater, they had a curb cut, their own separate curb cut that accessed
Oh,
the
yeah,
parking
but
lot?
that didn't really quite stop things. We won't get
Yeah,
into
they
that.
also had
They also
Everybody
had
went out
access.
to
They
Hidden
also
Lane.
had access via the Hidden
Okay.
Lane too. It's always been,
Okay,
It's
the
been
Hidden
a
Lane,
problem.
the easement to Hidden Lane actually goes right,
Yeah.
you look at the Alta survey, that, and I remember you from the medical building, the medicine, so, hello again.
yeah,
Uh,
go ahead, Dick.
But yeah, there's no question that it's a quirky situation.
Mhm.
But if you look at the Alta survey, Hidden Lanes easement always went right through the cinema property. I believe, and maybe Dort's engineer could explain what the nature of, it's, when you have to amend the plat, it is a lawsuit.
Mhm.
Because you have to go to court to amend a plat. And there might, I don't know, you know, where that sits or what all the specifics are about that, but that's why they've had to do that, to try to clean up or clarify this entire access easement issue. And that's why you're all part of that,
Right.
so that your rights are also protected in terms of your rights to get. But from my understanding and my recollection, the cinema had access through a separate curb cut and from the curb cut that served for Hidden Lane, and then Hidden Lane went through the property. So it's,
They paved over the,
right,
I guess maybe they thought that they were paved.
they did.
But I remember that happening.
Yeah.
They paved over what we thought was the road, or some of it, not all.
Right, that's correct.
So I heard you loud and clear, what your concerns. And I think, I don't want to speak for all the planning commissioners, but I'll speak for myself. I think what we're looking for is a win for everybody. So a situation where there's safe, convenient access for the credit union, there's safe, convenient use of the private road by the residents, and everyone can coexist. It's certainly in the credit union's best interest that that road be maintained. If their customers have problems negotiating the snow or whatever, they're not gonna have, their customers are gonna go somewhere else. They're gonna be dissatisfied. So, I mean, I think we all want, I don't speak for anyone else here, but I believe we all want the same thing here. But I think your comments they landed with me. I hear what you're saying.
All of you should take a drive down there and check it out. See what we're dealing with. I don't, why can't they use the entrance that's already there that went into the cinema? I know it's not very wide, but it is there, and they could widen it a little bit and not even interfere with our road. That apparently was not even a thought.
Well, we'll answer that question. We'll before this evening meeting's over. I have an answer for you, but I'll wait till we get through the public comments and we'll address that.
Okay. Okay.
Any other concerns or comments?
No, that's the biggest one, I guess.
As for the 6:30 notification, until recently, we had 6:30 meetings forever. We just recently changed to 6 o'clock, and it sounds like that slipped through the cracks. You didn't miss much, you just missed me talking. So if anything, we did you a favor, you didn't have to listen to me talk. But we're glad you came tonight.
Okay,
Thank you. Anyone else present who'd like to speak on this issue? Good evening.
Good evening, I'm Jeffrey Parent, I live at 6880 Hidden Lane. I wanted to reemphasize that in my mortgage statement, it is documented that Hidden Lane is a private road. So I just want to make sure there's no question in anyone's mind, Hidden Lane is a private road. And I just wanted to reiterate, gentleman at the end, Tim, I think you made a very good point about if this does proceed, you've got to have blockage of any and all traffic lights and everything. That's, you know, again, if this proceeds, I think that's a critical point. And then, yeah, I guess the other thing is I've been here 26 years, but that's half the time that some of the other people have been here, believe it or not. And I just wanted to reiterate the point that I think it's important for the folks on Hidden Lane that the access is not reduced or interfered with from what it is now. In other words, I would reiterate the last speaker said about making sure that the entrance to whatever facility is going up, not to be hidden lane, if that's at all possible. It sounds like it is all possible because that is the case with the movie theater. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on the issue? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Paul Bond, and my wife Cynthia and I have owned 6810 Dixie Highway, the property that's adjacent to the Clarkson Cinema. We have owned it since 2001, and it's a cottage. It was an investment piece, but my daughter's been living there for the last 4 years, and so it's really become a cottage. To be clear, I am very happy to see the Clarkson Cinema development and the corridor being finished and having that cleaned up on that corner. We're really happy to see it. But with that in mind, I will be landlocked if I don't petition for water and sewer on my little lot. If the Dort Financial is not interested in purchasing my property, then I'm asking that I be offered water and sewer of some sort to keep the property and keep the lake clean and be able to just live there and keep the property up and maintain it correctly. That's really the only thing. The only other thing I would say about my pie-shaped piece, which is 52 feet on Dixie Highway, 175 feet of waterfront, and we want to kind of protect it. We have an easement, of course, that runs right in front of the Dixie Clarkson Cinema. So it is an issue of sorts. It's never been a problem. We turn our turn signals on and get in and out and safely exit and enter for all these years, whether it be rented or personally owned and living there. The only thing I'm concerned about is the elevation. We have a retaining wall that is on the line of the Clarkson Cinema. It is a cement retaining wall that is between 7 and 8 feet from our cottage. We just had consumers there last year put in a new gas line and update the services in there. And there is an issue of the wall. We've been maintaining it and keeping it up. So there's a cement wall that basically runs from our elevation up about 5 or 6 feet. And then on top of that, there's a 4-foot wood fence that we've been maintaining to keep from falling in for all these years. And I have not had a problem and got along with Doug for all these years and just keeping it up and keeping it private and keeping the crime and the people out of our cottage. And the Oakland County Sheriffs have been great, and we're happy with that. But with that in mind, I am concerned about the retaining wall and how that's going to affect the property along the cottage line there, which is, like I said, only 7 or 8 feet of width between the cement retaining wall, which I'm positive is the Clarkson Cinema property. Any questions?
Is the condition of the wall vertical?
I have photos that I can share with you after or till later on, and no, it is falling in, and the wood we've repaired and fixed it. We're actually bracing up the wood fence right now with 4x4s along the wall. So, and that's just to keep it falling in on the cottage, and so that we can maintain the easement along the would be the southeast side of the house.
Your concern regarding sewer and water, are you talking about being able to use have an easement extended to your property line? What specifically is your request?
Well, with the infrastructure being done based on Dort Financial putting in infrastructure, I would like the opportunity to be able to tap into that and be included in that infrastructure within reason, of course. But like I said, we would like to go to water and sewer. I have a proposal from 2011 where we tried to get water and sewer. I was the only one that said yes. And that proposal at that time was only $14,000 per household for the 12 or 13 units that were proposed for water and sewer. So a lot has changed since then.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Thanks for attending tonight.
Thanks for your time.
Anyone else who's in the audience and present this evening who wishes to speak? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Is there anyone attending remotely who wishes to speak? No? No one? Last chance, I'm going to close the public hearing. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing.
6:51?
6:51 PM. Thank you for all who spoke. That was helpful, thank you. Bring it back.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
This is a point of clarification. This lot is part of that same plat. It was an old supervisor's plat. As you can see from the legal description, it's Lot 45. It is a private road. And that happened years ago, you know. It wouldn't happen today. You'd have to put in a public road. But with many areas in the township, look at Thundera. These were private roads, even though, and in order to correct property boundary issues, there was a process that they either called supervisor plats or assessor plats, I believe, where, you know, property was replatted to try to correct property boundary issues of property that was developed many, many, many years ago. So it is a private road, but it is a private road that ran across this Lot 45 within an easement that my understanding is that Lot 45 also had the ability to access that. What I think is important at this point is for communication to occur between the property owners and the applicant to come to an understanding of what this is, because the choice will be, keeping Hidden Lane there in the condition it is, and then having another driveway right next to it, in which, because of a change of use, MDOT may require this anyway. And so consequently, that's the dilemma, that every time a property, somebody has come before this township to develop that property, that has been one of the major stumbling blocks from that standpoint. So I wanted everybody to fully understand the facts that this is an old assessor's plat, all these, and that this lot itself is part of that plat, which had the right of access to Hidden Lane.
could you throw the Alta survey up there real quick? While you're standing there, Dick,
Yeah.
and could you
Well,
zoom
look-
in on this?
Take a look at, first of all, you gotta look at the title of it. It says Lot 45, a part of Lot 45 of Supervisor's Plat Number 9.
Yeah, it says it-
You see that? Now, if you look where Hidden Lane enters, see how it joins this site? And again, it's been so, well, look down, look at Dixie Highway. Look down Dixie Highway. You see that pavement? I mean, again, it's my recollection, the Clarkson Cinema, you know, used these driveways. Now what they're trying to do is consolidate this into a single driveway, which the Hidden Lane folks would continue to have use of, but it would be provided in an improved fashion. Now, I understand that that is a change, and a big change for the folks on Hidden Lane. The Oakland Medical Building was a huge change, and I remember the measures that we went to try to preserve that vegetation, and what people in Hidden Lane don't know, the number of times that we have prevented or, advised owners of that building, you're not moving any closer to the people on Hidden Lane. And that request has been several times, and it's said, don't even go there. We're trying to protect the folks on Hidden Lane. But this is a situation where there definitely is a matter of issue regarding where Hidden Lane actually is, Is it in the easement? No, it's probably not in that easement, but it's designated on the old plat as that easement crossing this property. So technically, they have the right to access that easement.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what an Alta survey is, it's basically prepared by a registered, typically a surveyor, registered in the state of Michigan, and the surveyor goes out and surveys everything that's there, and also does a deep dive into the underground utilities and easements and all the title work and all the approvals, et cetera, and then signs and seals it that it's accurate. So this is a representation of what's there today, both what you can see and what's underground. And also, if I'm reading this correctly, Mr. Longhurst, it's showing two curb cuts within really close, almost like this far apart, which would never, ever get approved today. It's, they're dangerously close. There's the potential for conflicting turning movements and accidents, and this is an accident waiting to happen. Like Mr. Carlisle said, MDOT would never approve this today, never. So yeah, one of the residents was wondering why one of the drives was eliminated. It was eliminated to make it safe, to reduce the turning conflicts and make it safe. Did I?
Nailed it, yep.
Nailed it? Okay. And it seems like a significant change, but it's actually, it may seem counterintuitive now, but when we have an opportunity to go from 2 to 1 and reduce turning conflicts to make it safer for everybody, it's a benefit for everyone. But I think this is an opportunity, so we all agree it's a private road. We all agree that Door Credit Union, if this is approved, has to pull their weight and play their part in keeping it safe and maintained. And does anyone want to speak to that matter, the private road issue for Door, or do we want to just move on from this? Now's your chance to communicate with the residents that are concerned. Not to put you on the spot, but I guess I will.
No, as it relates to how we'll maintain the road, you could simply just take a look at any of our properties and see how we maintain them and the condition that we keep our parking lots and driveways in. We take pride in our appearance, and we want to have a positive look and feel for the communities that we operate in, and have no desire to limit anyone's access to their homes.
Thank you.
Yeah, as far as the amended plat goes, Dick is, or Rich is correct, Mr. Crowley, correct, that it has to be, there was a lawsuit brought in order to notify all the plat owners that, we want to change, we want the easement to be clear and concise. So the way they do it is serve everyone with a lawsuit, and then you just become party to the lawsuit. Like the medical facility didn't even respond, so they default judgment to them. They accept whatever happens. They don't care. Because that roadway, the actual main entrance, if you look at that property line, that's our east property line, that is centered on the main access. And then Hidden Lane sort of curves off back onto our property, the gravel portion, and yes, the cinema paved, and there's curb cut or blocks all the way along there. So in that 50 feet, there needs to be a road, and it happens to be a parking lot, a gravel road. It's all, convoluted. So we're trying to consolidate to one to make everybody get to the back, no problem, and we circle around the credit union.
Could you, I wanted to ask more, could you be explicit though, in the fact that, because I remember this discussion we had when you first came in, that all of Hidden Lane is not actually within, it's not all within the prescribed easement, is that? What
Correct,
you
yes, you
discovered?
can see, well, you can see the
Okay.
heavy line.
This one here?
Yes, that heavy line, you keep coming down right there, boom, you see that's asphalt, so that's splitting, that's the main throat of the entry. And then the gravel portion is to the westerly side, and there's the tree overhang, so it's hugging the property line pretty much the whole winter. So the actual gravel portion is almost, it is entirely on this property.
But it's not within the existing easement, it's not within the easement, correct? Or
I don't
only
know.
partially within the easement?
See the 50-foot?
Oh, yeah.
It looks like it's shifted.
Yes, it shifts, yes.
Yeah.
And we're making it so it's offset 50 feet from the property line to make it.
So is that the point of the quiet title, is to move the easement over 15
Could you
feet?
go to the microphone so it's picked up? Sorry.
Because that was my question earlier, is what, we talk about the lawsuit, I assume that's a
Right.
quiet title process, and I didn't understand what that was for.
Yeah, I
But
haven't
now
been
I look at the
pretty-
Alta, it looks like you're shifting it to the property line when it was, on the Alta, it's off about 10
Brian,
feet.
can you raise it up some more?
Right.
So we can see
I
down?
think it's because we're relocating the
That- right,
easement,
right.
and, yeah, that's.
Yeah, our
Okay, so that's the
attorney
purpose.
started the lawsuit because the hidden lane easement is not on hidden lane. And then, as it stands right now, because of the hidden lane easement on the, which is currently on the parking lot of the cinema, we would not be able to put a building on there unless the easement is located where it's supposed to be.
Here's where you can see it, right here. Here's the apron going in.
Yeah,
The road is over here.
yeah.
And I think MDOT probably put that entrance there when they reconstructed part of Dixie Highway to have a shared access on the center line of a property line. That's how I look at it. And eventually, they would eliminate other entrances from here and there. But I think that was before the medical building was built and their new access was built. That was probably the thought.
So, look at this, and then can you put the landscape plan up with the, that's rendered with color? Because I think that helps show the change. You go from that, which is, there's a lot going on. And I apologize for my big head being in the way here. If you zoom a little, just, if you go in a little bit, you can pick up hidden lane up there.
There you go.
So you can see how it's more clearly defined as an entrance to the residential area. It cleans it up a lot, and I think it's gonna make it safer and more intuitive and more convenient for, in my opinion,
Makes it wider.
makes it wider, and it's gonna improve life, I believe, for residents in that neighborhood. I think it's a good thing at the end of the day. I know it's hard to wrap your head around going, 2 to 1 and all this change and a lawsuit and blah, but at the end of the day, this is what it's gonna look like, and I think this is gonna be better for everyone, in my opinion.
And you wanna ask us to,
Hi, my name is Jack Brook. I represent, I'm a commercial realtor, and I represent Dort in the acquisition of this property. The Hidden Lane lawsuit that you mentioned, that has mentioned, was initiated by Dort, by their attorney, to have all the residents of the Hidden Lane residential area sign their agreement that this would be done, what you're talking about would be done. The part that hasn't been mentioned here this evening is the maintenance of the road that will be at the end of the day. Part of that is paved will be maintained by Dort. They will maintain that, they will do the snow removal, they will pay for that, and they will pay for the landscaping, and they will keep that clean. The balance of that, the dirt portion, will be maintained by the residents in their current fashion. They will pay for the snow removal, and they will be asked to maintain that area of the street that runs along, there's a part of it that's unoccupied, and then it runs into the residential area. They will be requested to maintain that in its present form.
So my guess is based on what the representative of Dort Credit Union has said, so that we all know what it's like in the wintertime.
Yeah,
It starts snowing at 10 o'clock and it snows till 6 a.m.
right.
It's in the best interest of Dort Credit Union, when it stops snowing at 6 a.m., this is gonna be one of the first pieces on Dixie cleaned, because customers are coming.
Well, they will have a commercial person removing the snow from that road.
Right.
And usually there's a 2-inch,
Yep.
2-inch minimum that's called for, and then they get out and they do it. So they will try and do it before business starts in the morning, and they will
Yeah.
maintain it all day. So-
We heard numerous residents concerned with the road, so I just
Yeah.
I want everyone leaving
Right.
here with a comfort level.
Yeah, the comfort level, I think, I believe, my initial reaction was similar to yours, is that there are now 3 curb cuts from the theater property onto Dixie Highway. They will be removed, and there will only be 1 curb cut remaining. So that will make it a safer place, as you mentioned. There
Two,
are two,
because
there are
there's
two.
The driveway to the cottage.
So I was correct.
Yeah.
There's
As a
two.
resident.
There, but that'll be reduced to one
Yep.
only curb cut into this property, and that will go into Hidden Lane, and from Hidden Lane, there'll be one into the parking area and one into the drive-through.
Yep.
So I think that the lady who mentioned there's some delay and some concern about this road, it will actually be, as you're saying, an improvement over the existing situation for them to get on and off of Dixie Highway, and for there to be literally no traffic. You'll never notice a waiting period because of that.
Yep.
And the gentleman who mentioned the wanting to hook in, I guess he should talk to us. I don't know if there's a cost involved or what that's gonna be, but part of why I wanted to attend this meeting was to find out, is brownfield money available for the site? And can we do something to minimize the cost, because the owner of the site has not wanted, he doesn't want to pay for any of these things. Dort is not in a position to pay for all of them and still buy the property, so maybe brownfield money can contribute, and they could still occupy the property.
So that's a question you can ask offline to
Yeah.
maybe Mr. Ottman or another representative of the
We've actually
township.
brought that up to your client, and they have not responded to me.
So we should redo that conversation.
Absolutely.
We-
I've mentioned that to one of your representatives and also to somebody from the credit union that contacted me about this, and I said, this is a perfect example
Where
of how to use
brownfield-
brownfield money.
Right.
I mentioned it at the last meeting
Okay.
to your clients and consultants. I mean, you're really,
Which
we
have-
don't have a brownfield authority here, we use the counties.
Right.
They are absolutely some of the best that I've worked with in terms of of administering brownfield projects.
Well, I've worked with them before, and I think it would be an improvement. I don't know, if you don't have experience, it sounds, overwhelming to the uninitiated, but to those that have used it, it is well worth it. It's well worth exploring.
What are the
So-
environmentals? Was there a phase one done? Is there any environmental?
I haven't seen a phase one or a phase two for the site. I don't know if that was completed.
So it would only qualify if it's.
It qualifies as
as
an
blight.
obsolete building.
Well, It's
It's an
blight, but
obsolete-
it has to be qualified as blight, so.
I think it does, but I mean, there's probably also asbestos in the building too.
If the gas station up the street qualified, this will definitely, I believe it will qualify. I believe that we can at least make the application.
I would hire a consultant, for sure.
Okay.
Environmental
Let's,
consultant.
let's wrap up the brownfield talk.
Okay.
We're not a brownfield board. Let's move on from this.
Okay.
Mr. Carlisle, thank you.
Yeah, I have had a thought for the commission. And I get where, I mean, I totally understand where the folks from Hidden Lane are coming from, because now they're going from, this private drive, that's a gravel, sort of private drive coming off of Dixie Highway, back into their property, although this was always in jeopardy when the property was going to develop. I mean, let's face it, if the cinema would have gone back in business, a couple of years after it went out of business, it would have still been a problem. The color rendering drawing was a bit misleading about the impact of the pavement coming into Hidden Drive. This is more accurate. If perhaps, working with the property owners, if there was some delineation at that break point between where the commercial property ends and the private lane that serves the folks back there begins, such as some stone pillars or something that's acceptable to the residents, that make it clear that those are private residents back there, and it's demarcated so that it's clear that. I mean, a lot of times measures like that will preserve people's privacy. So I would encourage that kind of discussion to take place.
A simple sign
Well, so the public hearing is closed. So residents are over here, developers are over here. It's like you can mingle after the meeting and have a conversation if you have specific design suggestions, but I think that's a really good, suggestion. Now, in terms of process, so everyone leaving here, I want to make sure everyone knows what the next steps are. So what they're seeking this evening is special use approval, basically to approve the notion that there's a bank here, a lending institution here on the site, and conceptual site plan approval. Now, you all heard we have some specific design challenges that need to be addressed. It's gonna come back to this body for final site plan approval with some, hopefully all the details that we talked about being addressed. So it'll be before us again, and there's still some work to do, but I think as a board,
You can start input that night.
as a board, I think we agree with the concept and the direction we're going in. We just gotta get the details right, and there's time for that. So that's where, I don't want anyone thinking that it's a done deal, rubber stamp, done. There are some issues that have to be addressed here moving forward, and it'll come back.
I'm still uncomfortable though with where we're at still here. And I think I meant the last time I think you guys came in here, I made the comment, have you talked to the neighbors? To me, it's clear you haven't. And so I'm not comfortable even approving a concept plan. I think it probably makes sense to table this, to have them work, because some of these things that I think they're gonna work together on might affect this plan quite a bit. So I'm not saying I'm leaning either way, but I'm uncomfortable with moving forward, knowing that there hasn't been any communication whatsoever. I mean, you have an easement on your property, so, and I've had similar situations, and I made sure that I worked with the neighbors and that everybody was on board. I think it's good for the neighborhood. I'm not here to say that your project's not approvable or anything like that. I'm a little frustrated that this is happening here and not, there wasn't a neighborhood meeting at some point. So that's where I stand. I don't know where you guys stand, but I'm feeling a little uncomfortable even approving a concept plan right now. I'd like to know what you guys think.
Personally, I think that this is an opportunity where all the parties are in a room and can exchange addresses and phone numbers and emails, and they can work together to move forward. I'm at a point myself where I think the issues are, they're all, they all can be addressed, including any design issues associated with Hidden Lane. I'm only one vote. I'm comfortable with providing conceptual approval, knowing it's gonna come back and they're gonna address the details. But I hear what you're saying. The neighbors spoke, they've got concerns, they need to be addressed. And, I'm confident we can get to a solution that compromises that everyone's happy. I guess we'll know when we vote.
Somebody's gotta make a motion
Yeah.
first.
Either way, it's coming back.
It's coming back either
It's
way.
coming back, as
It is,
as
I just
the
don't want to
finals.
get strong-armed at the end and, well, this is all decided and there wasn't enough communication. I guess I'm trying to make a point here that it should have happened on the front, and I think that's the right way that would have been the right way to do it, rather than just send a lawsuit. And nobody understands that. I mean, even, we're on the business and it's even confusing that you do a lawsuit for a plat. I mean, it really is, it's just a quiet title, but you hear the word lawsuit, that doesn't make good neighbors. So that's my only concern. I think that we're just in a spot where these discussions should have happened by now.
Yeah, and I hate doing this, because just to show a yes or no, is there an active HOA association with the neighborhood? No.
I think on this part of the road, there's 3 houses, right? Three, yeah,
Yeah.
and then it stops, and then there's three more houses on the other end.
Condition could be with the
It doesn't go through, but there is a hidden lane coming off of M15 too.
Yeah. I think it's reasonable to, we've raised some issues, but speaking for myself, I'm comfortable with the direction this is going in. I'm comfortable with the use, the special use. I'm comfortable with conceptual site plan approval, given the issues that we've raised. And I would actually make a condition of conceptual approval of meeting with with the property owners prior to coming back for final. It's just a meeting, and it can be a Zoom call, it can be in person, whatever, that's up to you. But I mean, it's just a conversation, just talk. Doesn't cost anything and painless.
Proper notice of 6 o'clock meeting.
Next meeting will be at 6 o'clock, not 6:30. So that's where I am. I mean, I'm only one vote, but if anyone, we've got one person who's on the fence about moving forward, or, you know, with what the applicant seeks tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, I also want to be on the record that, and said this last time, I think it's a good use for the site. I think you fit with what the zoning is meant to be. It's a great reuse of a property, and I commend you for making it fit. So I think this is something certainly that can be worked out. Hopefully, I think it is better for the neighborhood. That is what, you know, Brent had said, and I agree with that. I feel like there should be more partnership on this, working together. So that's where I stand.
I'll try a motion if we're there, or if not, you can continue.
So we'll try the motion, but 1 second. The issue that the one resident had with the cottage on Dixie, concern with access to sewer and water, can you elaborate on that, Mr. Longhurst, like what?
So, the sewer connection that the credit union is proposing is a force main, it's a pumped system, again, so that's not a public improvement. The public improvement they're doing is the extension across Dixie Highway to the manhole. So if they wanted to have a meeting and come to some agreement where they had a combined force main system for the two properties, that, you know, the township would, you know, wouldn't be opposed to that. It would still be a private system that those two entities would have to maintain and operate. The water main, again, they're just proposing a 1-inch service tapping into the existing water main that's at the kind of the southeast corner of the site. Again, if they wanted to come to some sort of an agreement to extend water up to that site, we wouldn't be opposed to it, but there is nothing at this point that's mandating like that the credit union extend water main or put a hydrant in or anything like that. Those issues haven't come up as part of any of the reviews today.
So that's gonna be a discussion, and perhaps there may be a cost associated with that to pay their share.
Yep.
Yeah, so, there you have it. Thank you for addressing that. So, sorry, Mr. Galley, go for it.
I forgot one thing.
Good thing you had time.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion, PC file 2023-010, petitioner Dort Financial Credit Union. I recommend that we give conceptual special land use approval for a new credit union on Dixie Highway. Mentioning in particular, the site will be lower impact than the previous uses or what could be proposed under the current zoning. With that being said, we would give Mr. Carlisle, it's not called a variance, it's, what would I call it?
Deviations.
Deviation for minimum lot size and width, front setback dimensions, and also stacking dimensions for this use.
And number of parking spaces.
Also, that the petitioner has the ability to land bank parking in the front to get a deviation from parking spaces. Also noting we need final landscape plan, final lighting plan, sign packages, and update the building elevations to include the consultant and commission's comments. Also requesting that the 3 neighbors' concerns be addressed with maintaining the visual aspect of it being a private road, where the Dort property would end, and also trying to work with the other neighbor to get a cost option on connecting water and sewer fees. That's it.
Just one comment. I'll second, but with slight change. He said conceptual special land use. I just want to say it's conceptual site plan approval with special land use approval. Just to clarify that.
I'll accept the clarification.
The other item that was discussed was the reducing the width of the driveway for the queuing space. Friendly amendment.
Would be
Yes,
the
that's fine
east-
to,
the east driveway.
yeah, giving
I think
approval
that's
on
another-
lower stacking
that's
amounts,
fine.
reducing the driveway impervious surface.
Yeah.
I accept that amendment.
You didn't say in there that it's mandatory that they meet with the neighbors, but we can certainly strongly
I
encourage.
suggested it, yes.
Yeah, we strongly suggest you meet with the neighbors. You're gonna be asked when you're back here if you've met with the neighbors. It would bode well for you if you said, yes, we met with them and we had a great conversation. It would bode very well for you. We have a motion and a support. Any discussion? Could you do a roll call vote, please? Mr. Secretary, temporary secretary?
Mr. Borsheim,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Lockrid.
Yes.
Mr. Plantel, yes. Mr. Ritchie.
Yes.
Mr. Sabadan.
Yes.
Mrs. Tully is absent.
You have conceptual site plan approval and special use approval, and we'll see you again with a somewhat improved final site plan application after having met with the neighbors. Thank you. Next item is item G, regular business. There is none. Item H, approval of minutes. H1 is the regular meeting minutes of September 14th, 2023. Are there any proposed changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion to approve them as provided?
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes of September 14th, 2023 as written.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Minutes approved 6-0. Next item is item I, consultants' reports on master plan update. Mr. Carlisle.
We have completed all the public participation. We are in the drafting stage right now, probably, I would say, at least halfway through that part. I would anticipate that by our December meeting, we will have a complete draft plan to you.
Great,
I said I would anticipate,
great.
you know. But yeah, I think we will.
Right.
You know, I mean, quite a bit of the plan is, I mean, a large amount of the plan is not gonna change. It's gonna just be updated to reflect things that have already happened or changes that have occurred. But from a policy standpoint, very little, I think you'll find very little is gonna change. So, anyway,
Excellent.
okay?
Item J, discussion. I've got a couple things I want to bring up if anyone else has something. I was mentioning earlier on, I attended the Michigan Association of Planning, or MAP, annual conference last week. It's an excellent learning opportunity for professionals as well as planning commissioners.
Traverse City?
Traverse City, yeah. Next year's in Grand Rapids. It's usually early October for a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's the overnight stay, the accommodation is what it is, and the fee isn't really that much for the learning potential that it provides. And I think there should be representation from the township, both from staff and from the planning commission. I'm not suggesting all 7 members should go, but I think it should be offered to a couple of members every year, in my opinion.
Other
It's-
that go to that from other communities?
The city of Troy sent 3
Really?
this year. Some years we've sent more, some we've sent less. I'm not suggesting we send everybody, but I think there should be a presence. I think the learning and you learn new ideas that are out there, and you network with other planning commissioners, you compare notes and swap war stories, and it's great. So, I mean,
I think
If there-
you could recommend trying to budget for next year, at least 2 people. So, I mean, that could be a good recommendation by the board.
I think 2 people and this staff planner, if he has availability in his schedule, I think it's important.
And, I mean, we could rotate them, like you say. each
Absolutely.
time and everything, so.
Plus, Michigan, so,
Is it set up like different topics,
Yeah.
different seminars you go to?
yeah, usually you have 3 to choose from at any given time.
There's actually a citizens track,
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's usually on the first day.
Yeah, you pretty much do it pretty quick.
You could theoretically just go like on a Wednesday, and yeah, I would encourage you to, you know, try to attend the whole conference, but there is a citizens track. I have to go back and look at this year's program, but yes, and, you know, I mean, even all the presentations that are even perhaps maybe at a little more technical level are still good, you know, very good, very well done. This our state conference is one of the best conferences in the country, really.
it's really good. I make a motion that the township board consider, it's not that heavy-handed of a motion, consider amending the planning department budget to provide for attendance of the planning director and up to 3 planning commissioners annually to the Michigan Association of Planning's annual conference. Again, the motion is just to consider it. We have a motion and a support.
Don't get it on the budget, it doesn't happen.
If it's not budget, it doesn't happen, and at least it's on their plate, they can consider it, and if it makes fiscal sense, then they'll approve it. If it doesn't, then they won't.
Work
So,
on it Monday.
What's that?
Monday.
There you
I'll
go.
work on it.
So, could we, we'll just do
I'll support.
I made the motion, support by Richie, so, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So it's a motion to pass 6-0 to consider, to think about it. And secondly, I think we all got an email from Brian, Alan Karolek from Kirko. They developed the assisted living facility on Sashabaw Road. It looks like it's open now. It looks fantastic. They did a really nice job, at least from when I drive by on Sashabaw, it looks great. And he's offered to give a tour to planning commission members and staff. This is the CEO of Kirko. He's a big shot, and he's a really nice guy, and he's offering it. So,
It's a great family.
what's that?
It's a great family.
It's a great family. He's a really good guy. It would be a great tour. I haven't got a response back from Brian yet. Is there interest? Because he's
I'd
been
like to do it before the meeting, something before the meeting if possible.
Yeah, I'm totally.
Yeah, I think I said I was in. I think I replied.
on a
Yep.
on a
I got a
Thursday,
couple,
maybe
yeah.
Yeah, Thursday's great.
on a Thursday before the meeting, like
Yeah.
I'd like to do
like
I'm
at
gonna try to
at 4:30 on a Thursday, something around that. 4 or
Yeah, I'll
4:30.
try to schedule that.
Okay, that'd be before. So before maybe the next meeting. He's a really good guy. He'd give us a great tour, and I think it's going to be a really cool facility to see. So
Maybe I can book a room for,
No, we'll come visit you, Dave. We'll come visit you while you're
I'm
there.
not old enough yet.
So I'll reach out to him and let him know that I haven't forgotten, and
Break out.
we'll be in contact. That's great. It's going to be fabulous. So thank you for that. And that's all I have.
I got one thing. Obviously I hit it hard, I think, on this last review here, but not having a neighborhood meeting and then getting to this point is very frustrating. I mean, it's been hit across my head many times by Jim Clark that you got to meet often and early.
I've hit you a
And-
couple times inside the head too.
Yeah, everybody has. But I mean, you meet once and then basically half the issues go away, and then by the time you get to the third meeting, this wouldn't have happened. So I'm frustrated. That's why I brought that up. I'd like, from a staff standpoint, if you guys can just make it clear that that's something that
We
the planning
do.
commission.
And
I'm sure you
We
do.
did multiple times.
I'm sure you do,
We
but
do
this
and we
trips them
did.
up.
We
So,
did and we do.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually told that they did, and I
It
apparently
didn't
they
sound
didn't.
like it. Okay, that was it.
No, I agree with you.
To make it clear, so the road, the private road is actually on the cinema property.
Correct.
And that's, the lawsuit was filed by,
They had, they're trying, Tim, you know how to explain this probably. I don't know if you've been through it, but you're trying to
I have been through it.
perfect the plat or
It's called quiet title. So
quiet title.
everybody that's in that plat has to be part of a lawsuit. And the only way you can do it is by sending this lawsuit. It's called quiet title. If they don't respond in a certain amount of time, then they have no rights. If they do respond, then, they have rights that they have to,
I mean, the township
part
even
of.
responded. So,
Right. It's just a process. You don't want to do anything with a plat, so that's the first part. But when you have these old plats, that happens all
Yeah.
the time.
And these kind of issues crop up all the time with these old
Older
plats,
parcels.
and.
But the neighbors don't know that. That would have been.
Well, I think they
Well,
did
they
talk to
all
a
came to me
neighbor.
and I'd explained that.
Okay.
They talked to the largest neighbor, and the largest neighbor said they didn't care, which would be the medical facility,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know.
Well, they're not part of the easement.
I think it crosses the front.
I don't think so.
It added
They
some-
need a new easement for access to cut that corner,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
for the
not part,
redraw.
they're not part of that road easement.
If they would have had a neighborhood meeting, a real thoughtful neighborhood meeting, we would have been out of here an hour ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had to do the explanation rather than them. it is what it is, but I agree 100% with what you said.
I know you do.
First meeting, they didn't even speak.
Yeah, so, we got there. Any other discussion? I move adjournment.
Support.
Richie supports, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I mean, it's obviously.